Hello, good morning, my dear grade 5A. How are you? Today is November 12, 2020. And today we are going to tackle about the lessons recognizing cause and effect relationships and identifying the problem and solution in a story or article. But before that, I will share to you a story. And this is about April Fool's Day. April Fools. Have you ever been fooled on April Fool's Day? Well, probably you're not alone. Do you want to know where this tradition started? The history of April Fool's Day or All Fool's Day is uncertain, but the nearest rational assumption is that it began around 1582 in France with the reform of the calendar under Charles IX. France used to celebrate New Year's Day on 25th to April 1st, or commonly known as New Year's Week. But when the Gregorian calendar was introduced, New Year's Day was moved to January 1st. During that time, communication traveled slowly. No internet or other means to spread the word, only by word of mouth. So it took several years before the news finally reached the people. Others have embraced the change, yet others resisted. Those people who continued to celebrate New Year's Day on April 1st were given the nickname April Fools. Not long after, people who embraced the new calendar played practical jokes on the April Fools by sending them on fool's errands. For instance, they had the April Fools deliver invitations to big New Year celebrations that did not exist. Still in France, April Fools were called Poisson d'Avril, meaning April fish. This was so because people thought fish was easy to fool with bait on a hook. So children would place a paper on a person's back to mark him as an April fish. And as soon as the person found out the paper fish, the prankster would yell, Poisson d'Avril. Another popular incident done on April Fool's Day was when the professor from Boston University fooled a reporter by making up a story about a court comedian who said he could run the empire better than the king. The comedian was made king for a day on April 1st. This turned out to be a big April Fool's Day trick because the reporter conceived the story was real. This harassment evolved over time and a custom of prank playing continued on the first day of April. In the 18th century, this tradition was said to have spread in places like Britain and Scotland and was later introduced to the American colonies by the English and the French. And as this tradition became widespread across countries and continents, April Fool's Day is being celebrated in its own unique way. Now that you know the story April Fools, I have here questions. First, what was the original date of New Year's Day in France? Second, why was it changed to January 1st? Third, who was responsible for its change? Fourth, who were given the nickname April Fool? Fifth, in France, what did the children do on April 1st? Why? Six, what was the author's purpose for writing this article? Write your answers on a piece of paper and keep that paper because later in our class, I will call names randomly, and if you can answer, you will get participation points. Again, write your answers on a piece of paper and keep that paper so that later, when I will call names, you will have an answer and gain participation points. Now let's move on to our first lesson, recognizing cause and effect relationships. Let us know first, what is a cause? Cause is an action or event that makes something happen. So usually cause is the reason why that certain event happened. Cause also happens first. It also tells us why it happened. So the main purpose of cause is the word why. It is your clue word. So here, as you can see, why did it happen? So that is what is answered by cause. Now let us know, what is an effect? An effect is a result or consequence of an action. So it is the consequence of the cause that happened, all right? The effect also happens after the cause. So when there is a cause, the next one that will happen will be the effect. Effect also tells us what happened. So the clue word there, or the question that is answered by effect, is the word what. So here, the question here is what happened. So that will be the one that will be answered by the effect. Okay, now I have here a sample sentence. The baby was crying, so dad picked her up. Now, in this sentence, can you identify which is the cause or which is the effect? Now, let's try to answer. The baby was crying. This is the cause, while so dad picked her up is the effect. So because the baby is crying, the dad picked her up, all right? And then class, can you identify if there is any signal word on that sentence? Yes, so is the signal word. So in every sentence class, there may be a signal word for you to be able to know which one is the cause or the effect. So I will give you other examples of signal word. So again, class, cause is the reason, effect is the thing that will happen or the consequence of that reason of an action. Okay, now I will show to you the signal words. So these are the signal words or phrases that can be seen in stories or sentences for you to be able to identify which is the cause or the effect. So because, since, thus, so that, if, then, therefore, nevertheless. This led to, as a result of, then, so, for this reason, an account of, due to, leads to. So these signal words or phrases class may be used in a cause or in an effect. So either kung asa ni sila mubagay, alright? So that's are the hints for you to be able to know where is the cause or the effect. Now let's go to our second lesson, identifying the problem and solution in a story or article. So typically, a plot of a story begins with a problem and ends with a solution. So problem class is what goes wrong in the story, while the solution is how the problem is solved. The plot development moves from conflict or problem to solution. So from problem to solution, that is usually what happens in a story, right? So these elements of a plot catch and sustain the reader's attention. And this makes the stories interesting. So as you can see, wow, it's interesting. Oftentimes, many stories have more than one problem and solution, such as stories from the novel. That is why you should be keen enough in determining them. So knowing the problem and solution in the story class is very much needed. We should be keen. All right? We should be a good observer because there is not only one problem in a story, but there may be a lot of problems and also solutions. All right. Now, class, how to identify the problem or solution in the story. I am giving to you how you will easily identify the problem or the solution in the story. The first one, think about all the things that have gone wrong, which is the problem in the story. So, if you're reading a story or an article, the one that is wrong there or the one that is showing a problem or the one that is not right, okay, kung nagpakita siya problema din nga dili sila ka-solve, that is the problem in the story. Then class, the second one, the solution or solutions is how each problem is fixed or solved. So when there is a problem or there is something that is going wrong on the story, the following or the one that will follows that is the solution. So again, in every problem, there will always be a solution. Okay, so always remember that. That is how to identify the problem or solution in story. Kaning duha. These two are the 2 points for you to easily determine the problem and solution. Now, class, let's consider this example paragraph. Let's try to answer. Tia looked in every place for the stockroom key to no avail. She needed to get her old stuff for the school project in the stockroom, and her school bag was locked inside. Having no choice, she went to her mother and asked, "Mom, can I please borrow the stockroom spare key?" What do you think was Tia's problem? How did she solve it? Okay, class. So I guess you already know the answer, or you already have your answers. So the answers for those questions, or for the question, what do you think was Tia's problem? The answer is the problem. She misplaced the key of the stockroom and she needed to unlock the stockroom to get her bag and stuff for her school project. So did you get the right answer? Very good. Now, on the question, how did she solve it? The answer is Tia borrowed the stockroom spare key from her mom. So that is the answer. So that is how you identify the problem and the solution in a story or an article or in a paragraph. Now, class, thank you for watching. I hope you have learned and see you later. Goodbye.